Senator Lindsey Graham said, "You do not release prisoners until the war is over." I would argue that in many ways the war is just starting. I couldn't agree more with Senator Lindsey Graham. The New York Times editorial, named "Perpetuating Guantanamo's Travesty," was written to bring the reader's attention to the release of Gitmo prisoners. The editorial made some factual points, but it did not take into consideration the true feelings of Americans during this hour of time of fear of terrorism and acts of hatred on our country. Today, I will be discussing the considerable problems associated with this editorial's position on this issue, as well as the support. The first area of interest is the main idea the editorial was trying to get across to its readers. As quoted by the New York Times, "It is a long pastime for American officials to do the right thing. Prosecute suspected terrorists in American courtrooms and shut down a wartime prison that has deservedly brought the United States to international scorn." That statement made by the New York Times is solely an opinion or point of view. How can one measure or decide what is the right thing that officials want to achieve? Some officials may feel like doing the right thing would be to keep the prisoners inside of Gitmo and keep it open. The authors also noted that Gitmo has brought the United States into national deserved scorn. But if there is so much scorn towards the United States, how was it that George Bush had a stronger active coalition during the war in Iraq and Afghanistan while sending prisoners to Gitmo versus President Barack Obama's inactive coalition on his containment against extremists while closing down Gitmo and releasing prisoners? I think that the New York Times would have done the American people a better justice if they had considered the question, what country would want terrorists walking around free unless they sympathize with their cause? To support my reasoning, we will first look at a national telephone survey and a poll. The national telephone survey done by Rasmussen found that 29% of voters support the closing of Guantanamo Bay, while 53% oppose the idea and 19% are undecided. According to a poll done by Gallup.com, 29% of American voters support the closing of Guantanamo Bay, while 66% oppose the idea. That is 2 out of every 3. On the issue of coalition, I would like to report from Heritage.com that there were 54 countries that joined the coalition of the willing for President George Bush. That did not include Canada, Germany, and France, and the other 15 countries that offered silent support. According to the Christian Science Monitor, President Obama claims that over 40 countries have offered to join the U.S.-led campaign against Islamic State militants in Iraq and Syria. Up next will be the discussion about the New York Times mentioning of countries willing to take the released prisoners. According to the New York Times, the Obama administration is currently looking for countries willing to take 54 prisoners who have been cleared for release by a team of American national security agencies. The key word here is willing. I am not sure if the New York Times considered that there are not many countries just lining up one by one to willingly accept these prisoners. Also, holding prisoners at Gitmo means that they can be held there indefinitely. When they are released to different countries, the countries will only hold them for a minimum amount of time until they are able to be released to do as they please. So, technically, the Obama administration is releasing prisoners to other countries not to be detained, but to be eventually freed under the false promise that they won't return to the fight. My evidence to support my reasoning is some information from the Director of National Intelligence. According to a report released on March 7th, based on trends identified during the past 11 years, we assess that some detainees currently in Gitmo will seek to re-engage in terrorist or insurgent activities after they are transferred. Also, between January 14th, 2013 and January 15, 2015, the United States government released an additional 33 Guantanamo detainees. According to the House Homeland Security Chairman, Michael McCaul, the number of transferred Guantanamo detainees confirmed to have returned to the fight increased by 12 during that same January 2014 and January 2015 year. It seems that though these American national agencies, whichever ones they are not doing that much of a thorough analysis. Last, let's look at a piece of evidence regarding the recidivism rates between Obama years and Bush years. Direct information provided by the New York Times via the Director of National Intelligence reads, out of the 88 prisoners who have been released since January 2009, 6 are known to have become involved with terrorist insurgent groups, and 1 is suspected of having done so. So a 6.1 recidivism rate. During the Bush years, more than 33% of 532 detainees were released or confirmed or suspected to have rejoined the fight. The first problem with this evidence provided by the New York Times is that they did not quite get Obama's recidivism rate percentage correct. According to information once again provided by the Director of National Intelligence, straight from the website, reads that out of the 88 prisoners Obama released, the same that the New York Times is speaking about as well, there has been a 6.8 recidivism rate. Wait, remember the New York Times said that there was a 6.1 recidivism rate for Obama. How could they confuse the number 1 with the number 8? Yes, this is a case of underreporting. Speaking of underreporting, this brings us to the second problem with this evidence. The authors of the editorial made a specific distinction for Obama that there were 6 confirmed and 1 suspected. But for Bush, they gave an overall statistic with clumping those that were confirmed with those that were suspected together. That is how the 33% is achieved. When you look at the Bush presidency years on the Director of National Intelligence website, you see that 19.6 are confirmed and 14.3 are suspected. Yes, that does indeed equal 33%. But when we look at Obama's presidential years, we see that 6.8 are solely the confirmed, while 1.1% is the suspected, an overall of a 7.9 recidivism rate. We won't even dive into the fact that more than just about half of Bush's confirmed released prisoners are dead or in custody. But it just seems a bit odd that the New York Times was able to get Bush's statistic correct, but got a little bit confused on Obama's. To wrap things up, we can conclude that the New York Times brought this argument to the table for good reasons, to inform the public of issues that are currently going on in our country. With that being said, the New York Times did not provide the optimal factual evidence to support its argument, as well as absent the fact of taking into consideration the true feelings of Americans. They want to keep Gitmo close. I have provided you today with proper evidence and reasoning for the refutation of this editorial. Let it be known that anyone who pays attention to current events would strongly disagree with this editorial. Thank you.